Hello my lovelies, good morning. So we're in my kitchen today. I'm gonna start some of my seedlings indoors because we live in a place where we might still get snow after the first part of May. So we typically don't plant where I live in Colorado until around Mother's Day. So I've got about 2 weeks or so to kind of germinate some seeds before I stick them outdoors. And so I brought all the ingredients into my kitchen today. It's a little chilly out, the sun's out, but it's still too cold to just want to work out there today. So we are going to start by planting some seeds. So I have all my supplies out. I'm just going to use a bag of composting soil. I actually am going to mix some of that into the soil in my garden and help to kind of get the nourishment right for the seedlings. So I'm going to use potting soil basically to start all my seedlings. You can kind of use whatever you've got or whatever your needs are for what you're planting. I'm by no means an expert. This is just what I do, and I'm itching to get outdoors. I'm tired of being cooped up, especially with having the new puppy and everything. So today I needed some earthing. So I'm bringing the outside inside. So I'm going to show you what I've got. I'm planting a lot of flowers in my garden this year because I want to attract the hummingbirds, the butterflies. We have hummingbird moths here where I live as well. And of course, food for the bees, because without all of our pollinators, we don't really have food or anything, right? So it's important that we give them what they need. I also have a bird bath out in my garden that I made in order to give them water, because especially when it's really hot, like 90, 100 plus days, we want to make sure that they're well hydrated so they can keep doing their job. So I have a bunch of stuff out. I'm gonna show you what I've got here. All right, so I've got some cups that I've already labeled here of what they are, what seeds are gonna go in there. I've got a couple of varieties of tomatoes. This probably won't be everything that I plant, but it's what I'm gonna start. A couple different varieties of some flowers here. I love that these are bright orange. I think that looks so cool. Tried to get some really bright colored things here. So this whole top row is gonna be different flowers. I also have some peonies that are bushes that I'm gonna plant. But I'm not prepping those. Those are gonna be direct sowed into the soil. So just some little things that I like to grow. Some lemon balm that I'll dry and I'll use for other things. And I ran out of containers, so in a pinch, this is just a little mason jar, and I put a coffee filter in here so I can label what it is. And then I can also just directly plant that coffee filter out in the dirt, and it will decompose just like compost. So I've got 2 baskets here. That's gonna hold all of the little things. It's got holes on it, as you can see, for drainage. So I just take it and I tip it like this in the kitchen sink. They're actually gonna go in my kitchen window. So this bag, it's just some cheap stuff I got at Home Depot. Exco Premium Organic Compost Soil. It's got a little bit of mulch in it as well, so that helps kind of drainage and retain moisture. So we're going to put them over here in my kitchen window. Let me open it all the way so you can see what that looks like here. But it faces east, so it gets bright sun. So they're gonna sit up here in this beautiful little window to grow, and it overlooks where they will be. That's my little garden out there with the fence. Goes all the way over to the tree. So decent size, and then I've got some planters. I don't think you can see those from where I'm at. But right under my kitchen window, I've got they're water troughs that we drilled some holes in for drainage. Sorry about the crazy camera angle. We drilled some holes in them for drainage and then filled them with soil. And so those are also going to be used for some of the wildflowers, because I'm hoping that some of these will actually come back. Some of them are just annuals, so they only bloom once. And then others are perennials, so they should come back every year. The peonies should come back every year. Those are actually going to be planted out in the garden, not in a box, just in the ground. But I have to dig out a lilac that is dead, so that will be a project for another day. So we're going to get started on all of this stuff, and I'm going to be back in just a second. All right, so hopefully you'll be able to see me over here. So what we're gonna do is each cup is labeled with what I'm putting in here. So I just gotta make sure I'm putting the right thing in. So these are gonna be zinnia flowers. So what I'm gonna do when I get out to the garden, when they're ready to be planted in the ground or in the box, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this whole thing, I'll break it up a little bit so that they can be spread out in the box. But for right now, it's just seedlings, so it's okay. We're gonna take a scoop of dirt Leave just a little bit of space in the top here so it's not completely full. We're going to put the seeds in, and then we're going to put more dirt over the top, and then they're going to go in the container, and I'll water everything in there. So some of these I got from Dollar Tree, some of these flowers, so I don't know how well they're going to do or not. Totally okay either way. And then we just cover it, cover the top, and then it's going to go in the container to get watered. So that's where they're gonna live until we really get growing. Another couple of weeks they'll go out in the actual garden. But for right now, this is what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna get all my little seeds in here, cover them with dirt again. And they don't need to be tightly packed or anything, just enough to cover them. So I'm gonna do all of these and then I will be back. All right, so I've got one container that has either the vegetables or herbs in it, and this one has all of the flowers in it. So I'm gonna water those in the sink, and then they're gonna go in the windowsill until it's time to plant outside. All right, so this part's kind of important. I started with cleaning the sink out because your seedlings, you don't wanna have any sort of like bacteria, you don't wanna harm them or anything. So I cleaned the sink out really good, set the containers in here. It's just a light watering. The first couple of days you don't want to like wash the seeds out. So I just use kind of lukewarm water so it doesn't shock them. And same thing as they're just growing, and then just a real light mist like if they were getting rain. And I do it until it starts to drain out the bottom. That way we know everything got saturated. And then every day we check the seeds to see if the soil is dry or if it's wet. If it's wet, you don't need to water. If it's dry, you definitely need to water. The first 2 weeks with seedlings, you want to make sure that the soil stays damp. That way they're getting enough nutrition. And then I'm going to let them sit here and drain for a little bit, and then they're going to go to their temporary home up in the windowsill. So real easy. There's a hole poked in the bottom, so as you can see it starts to drip out. So that way we'll know that the water's going all the way through. Like I said, I'll water them more than once here just to make sure it's all the way saturated. So same thing, just a light little misting. Ooh, too much. There we go. So just a good soak, and these containers I got at Dollar Tree. Same thing, these are just disposable little plastic cups. Sometimes if I've had a bunch of eggs, I use the little egg crates. You just put a little scoop of dirt in there. It's a great way. Those are biodegradable too. They can go right into the soil and they'll decompose like compost. I also usually start a compost bin, which I did this year, so I'll grab that and show you guys as well, the compost. If I could figure out my phone. Alright, so this is super simple. You can kind of use whatever you've got for this too. I went to Home Depot like 2 years ago when we really started doing gardening here, and I just bought the Home Depot bucket. So this is mine. It's got a lid on it. You want it to have a lid. Some people do 2 of them and layer them, and they drill holes through the first one so that you get like the soup water, as I like to call it. It's like the drain, the sludge. That stuff is amazing fertilizer for your fruits and vegetables, and anything that you're growing in your garden can benefit from it. So what is compost? Well, compost is natural things that come from the earth, can go back to the earth and biodegrade really easily. So it's an easy way to get homemade fertilizer in your garden. You need a layer of brown and then a layer of the compost, the ingredients from like kitchen scraps, and then a layer of green. So you can use leaves, you can use twigs, you can use grass clippings, cardboard, paper. The trick is with composting, it can't have any sort of grease or fat, so no meat, no fish can go in here. You can use vegetable scraps, fruit scraps, egg shells, banana peels, all sorts of stuff. Coffee grounds, the filter, you could chop up the filter and put it in there as well. So if you look in my bucket, I'll do it like this. I've got cardboard in there, some egg cartons that I used. I've got a banana peel in here, some coffee grounds, the filter. What else is in there? That's kind of it for the moment. So it may start growing like some funky stuff in here. It should not smell. So the other thing you're gonna do, I'm gonna actually put a layer of the dirt, the planting soil that I was using for the seeds. I'm gonna put that over the top. You need to stir your compost bucket at least every couple of days. It's the heat of the decomposition that is causing it to actually decay, and you want it to completely decay and turn literally back into soil. So it takes about 6 to 8 weeks. I won't be able to use this right away, but later throughout like the middle of summer when it really could use a little boost, that's when this is going to be ready. So about 6 to 8 weeks, you want to stir it regularly. I'm going to end up putting it out in the garden when it's full and let it just sit there and start to decompose. In the sunshine, it will accelerate it. So every couple of days you go out, you give it a little stir with a shovel, and you keep adding to it until it's full. You want to make sure there's at least a couple inches in the top so that it can kind of breathe. Excuse me, I have hiccups. And you can even add like a layer of hay over the top of it. So brown, and then your compost, then brown, then compost, then brown, all the way throughout the whole bucket. So alternate your layers. So I've got some stuff in here, so we need to put a little layer of brown over the top, and then I'm going to show you what that looks like. So quite literally, I just put a layer of dirt over the top of everything that's in there. You also want to make sure that this is moist. It doesn't need to be sopping wet, but it does need to stay damp at least. So it should look wet to the eyeball. It should look wet. If you're unsure, you can always touch it. If it's dry, you need to wet it because that's what's going to cause it to decompose. So you need the moisture in order, just like the plants need the moisture. So you put a little bit of moisture in there. So I'm going to take this to my sink. I'm going to dampen it down just like I did the plants and put the lid on it. And we're good until I have more kitchen scraps. So potato peels, banana peels, tomatoes, anything that comes from the earth can go in here. No oily stuff, no cheese, no dairy, no fats, no grease, no meats cannot go in your compost pile. It has to be like fruits and vegetables. Eggshells are fine if you're in question that it might contain salmonella. Rinse them, grind them up. You can even let them dry all the way and throw them in a food processor, and it's basically calcium for your garden. Some plants really need that. Sometimes I will also add a little bit of magnesium. So things like tomatoes and rose bushes are magnesium deficient most of the time. So that would be something that you can add. Things like magnesium flakes, or even stuff kind of like Epsom salt. I wouldn't typically add the Epsom salt to this. I would put it directly around the plants that need it, but that's also another thing that can be added in. So you need like, what is it? Carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, there's iron. Those are, I think, the main components. And so you need all of those things in order to actually make good compost. So typically if you're putting a lot of nutrient dense things in here and you allow them to decay, it's some of the best nutrition I've ever found for growing plants. So I'm going to wet this and show you what that looks like, and we will be back. All right, so obviously everyone knows what wet dirt looks like, but you can kind of see there's a little bit of water kind of pooling out there. You want to make sure it made it all to the way to the bottom. Now I don't wet it like that every single time, but the first time you want everything to be kind of sloppy so that it doesn't dry out immediately. And that's it. I'm going to leave it set with the lid on. It's going to be in my garage for a little while until it's full, and then I'm going to move it outside and it'll just sit out in the garden and start to decompose. I go out about once a week, check to see if it's still damp, and give it a good stir and let it sit there and decompose for 6 to 8 weeks, and then I use it wherever it's needed in the garden. So it can be used in flower beds, it can be used in potted plants, anything like that. You just put a little scoop, or even the water, like if you strain it off, the nasty, disgusting water is fantastic fertilizer. So sprinkle that anywhere that you need to give your plants a little boost. And that's it. That's how I start my garden, usually every spring. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll take you guys along with me when we actually start planting stuff in the ground. I'll show you how I prep my beds. We may be redoing some of that, so we'll see what happens with that. But we're going to show you guys the finished product as well. So join us in a couple more weeks and we'll see what it looks like as we start planting outside. Have a great day.